I need to get the blood out of my butt and back into my brain. It's been forever since I sat down and actually filmed a video, and it has been quite a few weeks, but I do have lots of videos planned, and this one specifically I have been putting off and putting off and putting off because I don't know how to talk about this topic, but it is probably the most highly requested video I have at the moment, and so I'm going to try. So this video, I think my camera's crooked, hold on. So this video is going to be how I study in nursing school, and I want to stress that this is how I study. Now this, you could watch this entire video and feel like it didn't help you at all, and I'm so sorry for that, but you have to understand every individual has different ways of studying, and the way that you learn how to is going to help it click for you. So I want to start off with what kind of learner I am. I am a global kinesthetic learner. So I know that's like a fancy term for it. That means, the global part means that when it comes to a subject or a topic or anything related, in that area, I have to understand the big picture before I can break it down and understand the little things. So just to kind of give you an example, because I am in nursing school, pharmacology, hardest class I've ever taken in my entire life. I had to understand, for instance, what beta blockers as a group did. What's the general idea of a beta blocker? And then I could go into each medication, and I could talk about propranolol and all these different kinds of medications that are beta blockers. But for me, I have to understand what them as a whole usually do, and then obviously there's variations within medications, a specific side effect or this or that or whatever that makes that medication stand out. So that's what the global part of that means. Kinesthetic means I have to do to learn. I can't just hear it, I can't just read it, I have to do to learn. So a lot of the time that means I need to write things out, I need to talk things through, I need to do something with my hands, that kind of thing. So that's how I learn. So just to give you a basis, you could totally be the opposite of me, and this probably won't help you at all. What I thought I would do, I have binders from pharmacology, and this one's patho, even though it doesn't have a cover. And I took all of my notes from, this thing is huge by the way, all of my notes, and I put them in here because I'm terrified to throw them away because I did not spend hours making them to throw them away. So I'm going to tell you how I study. My school, the way they work, we go to lecture and we sit, and the teacher usually has a PowerPoint that she's uploaded online that we have access to, and we sit in class and she lectures, and you take additional notes if you need to or not, whatever you do, and then you go home and you study. My teachers also lay out objectives, and I'm sure most of them do, and they're on the syllabus. They lay out all these different objectives for each chapter or each unit or module or whatever it is. So what I would do was I would go home and look at the PowerPoint, let's say it was over chapter 8, and look at the objectives for chapter 8, and I'm going to look into my PowerPoints to see how I can meet every single objective. And if I don't think the PowerPoint covered it enough, then I will go to the book. I am not a kind of person where you assign me 20 pages to read and I'm going to go home and read them. I don't function like that. I don't benefit from that. And so to me, just sitting down and reading the textbook does no good for me. So I'm going to show you the scary insides of this binder. So in my binder, I have all my notes sorted out. So like I have cardiology, dysrhythmias, angina, beta blockers, alpha, general digestive, PUD, nausea, vomiting, so on and so forth. And I made this binder after I was done with the class. So then I take the PowerPoints and I basically rewrite them all on my own handwriting, on my own notes, in my own colors, and all of that kind of stuff. But I pretty much take the entire PowerPoint and put it onto paper. Okay, so I'm switching angles here. So this is like, I'm just kind of giving you an overview of what so this is like, for instance, is the prototype of the drug, the use, the mechanism of action, adverse effects, contraindications, drug interactions, food interactions,
nursing like things that I need to teach the patient. And I take them all out and I write them in my own notes in all different kinds of colors, because colors make me happy. And so I'm physically writing them out. This is where the kinesthetic part of how I learn comes in. So, as you can see, I'm writing it all out. And this is farm, so a lot of this is just medications. So for my final, I made these beauties. And these are, concept maps pretty much. And I have dysrhythmias, and I have pretty much the general idea of what dysrhythmias do. Then I broke it off. So I have symptoms of dysrhythmias. Then I have sodium channel blockers. Then I have potassium channel blockers. Then I have beta blockers. And all of these things treat dysrhythmias. Okay, so here's another one. Laxative. That's fun stuff, right? Okay, so we have laxatives, and I pretty much know what laxatives do. I'm pretty sure we all know. And then I have every different kind of laxative and the basic important stuff that I need to know. Obviously there are going to be specific medications within these areas, but this is the general idea of what a stimulant laxative does, of what a bulk forming laxative does. So that kind of stuff. So just to show you, these are just what my notes look like. This is the hard part to explain. I'm literally just taking my PowerPoints and writing them out in ways that make sense to me. So I'll give you a preview kind of my patho one as well. This one was more like bubbles on pages because it wasn't so much like writing out drugs. So here's stuff about the pancreas, here's stuff about hepatitis, about alcoholic liver. So this just gives you an idea of how I actually wrote my notes out and everything like that. Oh, this kind of stuff helps me a lot too. So we're talking about the thyroid here. So hypothyroidism and the exact opposite, hyperthyroidism. So it's good for me to see it side by side to be able to compare, so I know what goes with what. This is just how I write my notes out. Very, very colorful, very bubbly, and so, yeah. Okay, so that's the general idea of how I write my notes out. That's the hardest part for me to explain because obviously your PowerPoints and the way your teachers, instructors set up things, it's going to be different than how mine is. So I literally just taking the PowerPoints and writing them out in a way that makes sense to me, grouping things that make sense to me. So you could do that with your notes. If it's all about the adrenal glands, make a paper dedicated to the adrenal glands. Put the diseases that can happen. Put the medications that treat it. Do all of that kind of stuff, group them together. That's what makes sense to me. Okay, so as far as studying goes, for those classes specifically, I studied for hours on end, and I know that's kind of intimidating and scary to think about. With my first degree, I barely studied. With this degree, I study all the time. I would sit for, I'm talking hours, probably 9 to 9 every day, if not more. And so one, I have to reward myself. I set breaks, and within those breaks I reward. So if I go from 9 to noon without getting on Facebook or other Instagram or Twitter or any other social media, if I go 9 to 12 straight focusing on my studying, maybe I can take a 30-minute TV break. Maybe I can go take a walk outside because I need to move. I need to get the blood out of my butt and back into my brain. Make sure you have snacks for yourself, and these are healthy snacks. Junk food makes you tired. Eat healthy things. Eat fruit, eat vegetables, drink lots of water. I don't do caffeine at all, and so I can't really tell you, you should drink caffeine because I don't drink caffeine. But you need to find ways that are going to keep you focused and are going to keep you energized, and food has a lot to do with that. And taking breaks does have a lot to do. Sometimes it would be like a 15-minute Facebook break if I studied, for 2 hours straight or anything like that. So I definitely believe in rewarding yourself. I definitely believe in taking, even if it is just a 15-minute break, taking a little bit of a break, making sure that you're eating healthily, make sure that you are getting sleep as hard as that is. It's actually proven that instead of, staying and pulling an all-nighter and studying, you actually retain more if you go to sleep. So I always went to sleep. I might have only gotten 5 hours or 4 hours or 3 hours,
but I went to sleep, at least for a little bit before test. Now, I also started studying days in advance. So if I usually had a test that next Wednesday, I would start the Thursday before, so almost a week in advance. That way, if anything came up, so let's say I had something out of the blue come up on Sunday, and I needed to be there, I could go because I already had 3 days worth of studying. And I took pharmacology and patho during football season. So Saturdays were not dedicated to studying. Saturdays were my go to football games, have fun day, and then Sunday I hop right back into it. But that's why I start so far in advance. That way, if I do have something come up, or I need to do something else rather than sit down and study, I have the opportunity to do that because I've already started studying. It's not like I'm studying the night before and then someone asks me to go to dinner and I can't because I have no studying done. So that's why I start so far in advance. Use practice questions as much as possible. And I know that sometimes this is not a reality or something that you can do because they're simply just not available to you. But to me, practice questions were huge. I'm the type of person where I can memorize anything that you give me and spit it back at you. However, it's very hard for me to take what I've memorized and then apply it in a different way. And surprise, surprise, all nursing school is application questions. That's pretty much what every single test question was. It was, this is your patient, this is what's going on, what do you do? And that's hard for me. So taking tests, I can store all the nursing knowledge I need to know, but when it comes to taking tests, I freak out and it's hard for me to do those types of questions. So doing practice questions for me were huge. It got me exposed to that type of question and critical thinking and all of those skills that you need as a nurse. So that's definitely something I'm building on and working on, and practice questions got me ready for that. It also is just a way to test your knowledge before you're actually taking the test. As far as studying goes, that's pretty much everything I do. I mean, you can only do so much and then you have to take the test. A C nurse and an A nurse are most likely going to both be registered nurses. They're both going to be hired into jobs, and they're both going to be successful nurses. Just because you do not make all A's on every single thing that you do in nursing school does not mean that you fail as a nurse. That grade does not define you as a nurse. That grade does not define you as a person. It does not define your education or your knowledge skills. So I have a problem with that. I feel like if I make an 85 on the test, I'm a failure. And that's the way my brain has set up. I'm such a perfectionist. I'm such someone who, if I'm not the best, I'm the worst. And that's unrealistic thinking, and I've worked on that. I've come such a long way especially since high school, as accepting that just because I made an 85 doesn't mean that I'm stupid, doesn't mean that I don't understand the material, doesn't mean that I'm going to be a bad nurse or anything like that. It's just I simply missed a few questions on a test. That's it. That's all it means. So don't focus so much on what everybody else is doing, what everybody else's grades are. You focus on you. You reward yourself and be proud of yourself for what you're doing. You're in the hardest degree declared by Guinness World Book of Records that you could possibly get, and you are going to pass, and you are going to take your NCLEX and become an RN and have an amazing, fulfilling career. So don't get so caught up in the grades and everything like that. Study as if you're saving someone's life, because that's what you probably will be doing one day, but don't get caught up if it's an 85 this time. All you can do is try harder next time. A few test taking skills I have is read the question and then the answer choice one by one. So read the question, plug in answer A. Check it as a yes, no, or maybe. Is that something that applies to that patient, that situation? Sure, yeah, it can be. Or no, not at all. That makes absolutely no sense. Or it might be, it maybe could be, but so you can just keep it as an option. So apply it as a yes, no, or maybe. If you apply it as a no, mark it out. Do not return to it. Do not second guess yourself and go back and look at it. Most of the time, your first thought on that situation is correct. So mark it as a yes, no, or maybe. And do that for every single answer choice that you have. Read the question, read answer A. Does that work? Okay. Read the question, read answer B. Does that work? Yes or no? And then so on and so forth. And let's say you get down to 2 maybes. There are something within those answer choices They might both be right, but which one's better? Which one makes the most sense? Which one is the best for that specific situation? And that's how you can eliminate the questions. I struggle with, I answer it and then I'll go back later and change my answer. And I've learned the less I do that, the less questions I get wrong, because most of the time my first answer was correct. So try your hardest not to go back and change your answers or second guess yourself unless you were reading the question and then totally misinterpreted it or totally misread the question. Then obviously you would be fixing your mistake. But most of the time when you pick an answer choice and then you go back and you're like, well, I don't know, maybe we did learn about this and I just don't remember, and then you change your answer, sometimes it's wrong. Walk out knowing that you did your best and be proud of yourself and get ready for the next test. So anyways, I feel like that didn't help whatsoever, but that is literally the way I study and the way that I process and think through my studying, my test taking abilities and skills. And I hope that you pulled something from this video, and I will talk to you guys in my next one. Thanks so much for watching. I love you. Mwah.